Hello everybody, welcome to another video on the channel. Today I am bringing you highlights from round 15, the season finale of season 15. It's been an up and down season so far, but although we have now consolidated our position of second place in the Drivers' Championship, we can still have one more crack at getting the Constructors' title and maybe coming away with a fourth win here at Brazil. So into this race feeling pretty good about my pace, but the main thing that I'm concerned about is tyre strategy. Super soft tyres, although they are by far the quicker tyre around this circuit, the one stop being the better strategy around here, you really start to struggle with tyre wear at the end of both of the stints and really starting to be on the brink of puncture territory. But having done some practice, the softer tyre compound does seem to be the more durable tyre in the race and overall faster, but you do lose some time in qualifying. But if we can put a lap together which is good enough for the front row or maybe the second row, then it might be wise to try and go for that. Looking at what other people are doing, there's a lot of people doing times already on the super soft tyre, abandoning that harder tyre compound strategy already. Although having said that, Sauber trying to do a lap on the medium tyre compound, that's possibly a masterstroke in terms of strategy depending on how the weather plays out. Despite it supposedly being a completely dry race, there could be light touches of rain here in Brazil, always known to be very tricky weather-wise. So gonna go and try and do this soft quali lap first. So our setup for this race, 19 wings with 10 ballast. Previously used 9 ballast but didn't quite have enough rotation at the back of the car in the second sector and did start to lose quite a bit of time, so slightly trickier to handle on heavy fuel load at the beginning of the race, but manageable if driven carefully and definitely faster if we keep it on the track. So we're going to go and head out and try and do our first lap. Already lost a couple of minutes in trying to make our decision for what we're going to do, but we'll still have plenty of time. See, already times going on the board on super soft tyres around the 1:10 range. On these soft tyres, if the lap is nailed, it can go down as far as a 1:09. I think I could easily do a mid 1:09 if I put it all together without any mistakes, but we're going to see what we can do. So braking in at the 50-metre board, going into the centre S's as we come through turn 1 and 2. Nicely through there, not too bad. Return on the soft tyres goes in the sets of 1:09.7. That's a pretty solid lap for a first run out. So we come to the end of sector 1, we're actually up by about 0.06 of a second on his time so far. Through turn 4 and 5, not too bad through there. Got a little bit wide on the exit curve, but not so awful. And then running slightly wide here as we go through turn 6 and 7, and we've dropped it just over the white line there, and that's invalidated our lap. Corner cutting on this circuit or track extending can be incredibly sensitive in certain places, but then also very relaxed, and unfortunately the exit of 6 and 7 is a place where it gets particularly fussy about how much track you use there, because obviously you can gain a lot of advantage if you allow the car to run out a lot onto the Astro. So we've already used up 1 lap's worth of our tyre wear on these soft tyres so far, which is not ideal, and we only have 1 set of these tyres to play with, so we're going to give it one more shot on these tyres to see what sort of lap we can do. Rupert has gone and set a slightly better lap time, another 1:09.7, but fractionally faster than return. We go into turn 1 once more, tighter to that first apex, and then running it through turns 2 and then the long left-hander of turn 3. We're going to be fractionally up on our previous time as we open up the DRS heading towards the end of sector 1. Rupert not so good through sector 1 there, as we're almost up by 0.2 on his provisional pole time, but as we go through 4 and 5 we've actually lost time, which is not ideal. So possibly these tyres already started to give up a little of that performance. Much better through 6 and 7 as we're tighter to that inside curve as Rupert goes and sets a slightly quicker lap. Then tricky turn 9 here on power, getting a little bit of oversteer, but we're now up on our previous best, but that's not surprising as we did start to back off on that lap to try and save the tyres. So as we come down into the penultimate corner, you see we've almost lost 0.3 of a second on Rupert. As we come out of turn 13, get a massive kick of oversteer. We barely hold on to the car, but that has heavily impacted our run all the way down to the start-finish straight, because you carry all of that speed going up the hill, and for now that time is only good enough for 4th position. You see, by the time we've got back into the pits, we're already down to 5th, so I'm going to have to go and do a lap on the super soft tyres. I don't want to be starting that far down on the grid, so instead, super soft tyre run it is, try and see how far up we can get, maybe try and challenge that pole position, and then just have to be incredibly cautious with the tyres in the race. You see, Sauber has now gone and done a lap on the soft tyre compound, done a mid 109, which is a very solid lap, and that's the sort of time that I was previously aiming for. But I think to get this pole position, we're going to have to be looking at low 109s, if not 109.0, so see what we can do. Down, braking at the centre S's once more, really nice and tight to that first curb, and then cutting across and not getting a corner cutting warning for that. That's very tricky to get right, but if you get it and you're on the power nice and early, carry all that speed down towards turn 4. You see a 10th up and going purple in the first sector already. Really nice through turns 4 and 5, gaining time every split second, and we're going to be about quarter of a second up as we go through the very fast double right-hander, cutting back across to the inside track and just touching that outer white line but not running over it. Slightly wide through that corner there as we then go back up the hill out of turn 9 towards turn 10 and down into second gear on the power nice and early, get a little bit of a kick as we go past the Sauber who's slowed up, and then going into the penultimate corner, half a second up on our best, really nice exit through there, and now we're going to carry all of that speed out of that corner, up the hill, and you'll see Delta is just climbing and climbing, going to be improving by almost a second. It's going to be a very low 109 as we cross the finish line to 109.016, and that would be good enough for us to get pole position by about quarter of a second to Rance, who also did his lap on the super soft tyres. See, all 3 of the soft tyre compound runners though, not too far behind, and their tyres are going to be a lot fresher than ours were, depending on how many laps they did on their quali runs. But I think it's particularly for Sauber, they only did 1 lap, and I think for the others maybe 1 or 2. And these super soft tyres, if they're driven too hard at the beginning of the race, will overheat and degrade very quickly. Making some last minute adjustments to the setup now, going down to 1 front wing, and that just gives us more stability, but also some crucial extra straight line speed to defend with, or possibly go for overtakes if we don't execute this start particularly well, and 54% brake bias to try and help the rear of the car not overheat and have instability going into some of these hard braking zones. But the lights are now coming on. We are about to be underway for the Brazilian Grand Prix, the season finale, and we are off. Pretty good launch there, got it nicely hooked up on the start. Rance is already putting us under pressure though, not sure if he's going to be down the inside. We have to leave him room, staying in 4th gear to try and make sure we get decent traction, but our exit has been compromised coming out the centre S's. Now Rance is going to go around the outside of us. We're going to put it into a rich fuel mixture to try and defend as we go towards turn 4 and 5. Tiny bit of wheel bumping, just a little bit of desyncing on the internet connection. But as we break 100 metres board, we've covered the inside line, but now we've run slightly wide. He's going to get the cut back onto us. We've run back up the hill. This is a great duel as we head towards turn 6 and 7, and we're going to try and hold it on the inside, out brake him and go into 5th gear, and we're going to manage to hold track position on lap 1. Very dicey there for a second, but we've just about managed to retain our lead. Meanwhile, Rupert has managed to get himself up into 3rd position, and have to be very aware of him because as we get past about lap 4, that soft tyre compound is going to be faster. So we're going to try and manage these tyres for as long as we can and keep that tyre wear down and go as far on this stint as possible. But pulling out quite a decent gap now to Rance as we come to the end of the first lap of this Grand Prix. Got about 2 car lengths to him behind and no trouble going into turn 1 of being possibly challenged. So braking nicely down again into turn 1, keeping it nice and tidy through there, using lean fuel mixture not only to preserve the tyres but also on this heavy fuel load, just trying to reduce that torque a bit coming through those corners to make sure we get nice, clean but fast exits. Skipping ahead onto lap 3, and we've managed to break out of DRS range of Rance behind us, which is very important because a couple of very good overtaking opportunities here at Brazil on the start-finish straight and coming down towards turn 4 with that double DRS zone. So the fact we've managed to get ourselves out of DRS range is good, and now Rupert is probably going to start mounting a challenge and putting Rance under pressure, which should allow us to start breaking away slightly without having to stress our tyres too much. So coming round now and still just trying to manage the tyres as we go on to lap 4, and now almost a 2-second gap to Rance behind, so just gradually putting in decent sectors and allowing the 2 cars behind us to battle away while we pull ahead but not ruining our tyres. Into turn 1 once more as we jump on board on lap 6, and now it's up to 3-second gap, so every couple of laps about half a second. Very quick in sector 1 as it turns out. As we go on to lap 9, Rupert has actually managed to make a pass on Rance going into the centre S's. So we'll see as we exit turn 4 and into 5, we've got a 4-second gap to Rupert behind us, but those soft tyre compounds are going to be much quicker at this stage in the race. So we've managed our tyres pretty well up until this point, and they're not suffering too badly, but we're going to start losing time if we're not careful, so just going to have to try and be clean and consistent whilst putting in quick sectors. Going to try to stretch these tyres out to around lap 14-15 if we can, because that's roughly the sort of range where the soft tyres are actually going to be pitting. You see, lap 14, Rupert has taken 1.5 seconds out of us, and these tyres are really starting to die off. Rance has already had to make his pit stop, and now on 14 we're going to have to do the same, because they could do maybe 1 lap more, but that's scary in terms of punch territory, and with Rupert closing in behind us, we can get a bit of an undercut on him. Although we are the car in front on these fresh medium tyres, we will be able to pull away as long as we do a good outlap. So nice clean pit stop, no one holding us up in the pit lane as one other car behind us does come into the pits, possibly a return I think. And as we come through a very tricky pit exit, very easy to actually run wide through here and clip the barrier and lose part of your wing for no reason, but push it on limits but not too hard. And as we go to the end of sector 1, you see about 12.5 seconds behind the Sauber in front of us, who is going to stay out and do an extra lap on these softer tyres. But making use of this fresh rubber now, you just see so much more commitment going through these couple of very fast right-handers, and again traction is just so much better at this point in the race than it was on those super soft tyres. They were really starting to struggle, but now medium tyres are definitely doing us well. So coming to the end of sector 2 now, going to see how much we've managed to close the gap to the Sauber in front of us, just now 1 sector, and we've almost taken a second out of him. That just shows the power of fresh rubber on these Formula 1 cars, and when tyre wear is this high and this dramatic at a circuit like Brazil, where there's a lot of these very fast corners but also heavy traction zones, it's amazing how much of a difference it can make. You see both Rupert and the Sauber have pitted only 1 lap later than us, despite being on those harder tyres, so we really managed to stretch out that first stint, and not only has that benefited us in the sense that we're only slightly down in terms of tyre wear, but we managed to get that track position in qualifying by doing that lap on super soft tyres, so really good stint there. But Rupert going out behind us about just under 3 seconds, which not too far off the sort of gap he was at before either of us pitted. So through sector 2 once more, and just so much more turning, easily on the power earlier, and just using lean fuel mixture in all of this sector 2, not only to try and save some fuel for where we don't need to use it, and possibly for later on in the race if Rupert does start to challenge us, but it just means that we're not putting the tyres under so much stress, and it makes the car that bit more controllable and less twitchy at the back. Even though we're on fresher tyres, it's very easy to have issues at points in the race. Skipping ahead now to lap 22, Rance has got in front of the Sauber and is back into 3rd position, as Rupert actually goes and sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix behind us. So he is pushing on. Rance seems to be dropping back a little bit, but as we go onto lap 23, staying purple sectors and just fractionally extending that gap to Rupert behind us. We're very quick in sector 1 it seems at the moment, we seem to have a really good line through the center S's, and these medium tyres with 1.9 wings and that 10 bars really working well for us at the moment, and we're able to push but not too hard and put in some quick laps to try and eke out that gap to the Ferrari behind us. Coming to the closing stages of sector 2 now, as we wrap around turn 10 and go down the hill of 11 before going into turn 12. You can see not far off our personal best at the moment, and now we're actually going to stay on board for this next lap, as this is our fastest lap of the Grand Prix and would go on to be the fastest lap of the Grand Prix done by anyone on the same strategy besides one of the drivers at the back who ended up doing a 2-stop and going onto the super soft tyres at the end of the Grand Prix. So really nice through the centre S's there, great exit, and on the power nice and early into rich fuel mixture because we have excess fuel now after using lead fuel mixture through so much of sector 2. You see 1.5 tenths up on our previous best sector as we go into turn 5 and back up towards the hill on this quick double right hander. Into lean fuel mixture once more, don't need to use it so much in this corner, but rather be safe than sorry. And then turning into the tricky turn 8 and then turn 9, slight amount of understeer, but letting the car come back to us as we then get on power and head towards turn 10, dipping into that slightly cambered corner and then running back down the hill, where if you get it hooked up on that curve you can start to lose the back end of the car, but we've kept it nicely together, clipping a little bit of that inside curve and exit curve, and then we get on the power again, still purple in both the first and second sector at this point, and then rich fuel mixture heading towards the finish line to complete our fastest lap. As we cross the line, it's only a small improvement, but just under a tenth. We've done a 1:11.8. You see that hasn't really changed the gap to Rupert behind us, who is still very much keeping us honest and putting in very similar, very quick lap times. So fortunately the stint that we put in at the beginning of the race has allowed us to pull away a bit, but even now as we go on to lap 29 we are starting to pull away just that bit more lap by lap, but still very much if we make a mistake it could go very wrong. But now we have the Red Bull behind us who's actually a lap down and has a very, very weird glitch. I'm not sure what happened there. Some sort of connection issues, because on my screen, on previous laps, Taz as it would be, was lagging all over the place, but then on his point of view I had a red cross above me showing that I had bad connection, so I'm not sure what was going on there, but very unfortunate incident for him to have it already a lap down and then to have that as well. Just unnecessary damage in a race that already was looking unfortunately quite poor. But skipping ahead now onto lap 34 as we come to the closing stages of Grand Prix. We have about a 6-second gap to the Ferrari behind us, with Return having got himself up into 3rd position and is well behind us, and now we're just trying to cruise to the finish line. The clouds have been forming above us. It was meant to be a completely dry race, but as unpredictable as ever, Brazil trying to throw a spanner in the works for a nice easy Grand Prix, and grey clouds are now covering more and more of the circuit, and right at the very end of this Grand Prix there is meant to be spits of rain. These medium tyres are probably the best dry tyres to be on in these sorts of conditions, because the extra tread depth and the lower operating temperatures for these tyres mean that they actually cope very well in these changing conditions. So if we're going to be set up to face these, we're in the best possible position, and that rain is only meant to come in at the very, very final stages of this Grand Prix, probably on lap 36. You can see Rupert starting to close in on us a little bit, but that's just because we are driving very, very carefully in these final parts of the Grand Prix. We already have 2 warnings of track extension to our name, so really don't want to accumulate any more and run the risk of dropping behind Rupert at the very final stages of this Grand Prix. You can see spots of rain now already landing on a visor. Rupert closing that gap down to just over 5 seconds, so he is closing in. He has nothing to lose at this point. He's got a comfortable gap to Return behind him. and he's just trying to go for the race win and see if I make a mistake in these final parts of the Grand Prix. But I'm just going to try and take it really nice and easy, coming through sector 2, lean fuel mixture everywhere once more, and only going to go down to 3rd gear this time, just make sure no silly wheel spin upon exit out of 8, going through 9, staying well away from that inside curve, and then coming through the penultimate corner, and we're going to go into rich fuel mixture for one last time as we head towards the finish line, and we are going to win in Brazil the season finale, and we have got Toro Rosso the constructor's title. Well, that would be it. That was the Brazilian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, only 8 people turning up to this season finale, but that is also the end of season 15. In due course, I will be posting a video of my highlights from my debut season in AOR, and it's been a pleasure, and I've really enjoyed all of the racing this season. Second in the championship is something I will happily walk away with. So, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.